We are dealing with human animals, and we are not going to spare any of them. There is no non-military target in Gaza. We are dealing with human animals, and we are not going to spare any of them. There is no non-military target in Gaza. In other words, women who are non-combatants are targets. Children are targets. The fighters themselves are targets. Hospitals are targets. The Israeli defense minister gleefully said they will have no fuel, no water, no food. And one even went to the Bible in the book of Samuel and said, just like God ordered that the Amalekites be eliminated, so shall we eliminate the Palestinians in Gaza, that no human being may ever live in Gaza again. Against that background, the reference by the Republic of South Africa to the International Court of Justice is decent, it is understandable, it is acceptable. I've read and reread the 84-page document. It is one of the most well-prepared documentation presenting evidence of what constitutes the crime of genocide. There'll be no peace that they desire and deserve. The Middle Eastern problem is one that has a long history, but in the context of modern history, we must go back to the Balfour Declaration in 1948 that led to the creation of the State of Israel as we know it today, and to what is normally called Nakba, which is the catastrophe that led to the expulsion en masse of the Palestinian population at that time. So if you want to understand what is happening in the Middle East, it must be understood in that context, and that is what has generated what we see today. So that the Palestinians have since 1948 considered themselves to be an aggrieved people. And the Israeli state, as we know it, has been on the defense, starting with the wars in 1948 and of course 1967 and 1973, and the two intifadas, the uprisings. So that you are talking about a Middle East that has been in conflict, pitting Arab countries and Israel. And that is what we see manifesting itself, culminating in the events of the 7th day of October, the year 2023, which has now given birth to what is the war in Gaza, and is one that is not going to be resolved as quickly as we want it to be resolved unless the fundamental and primary issues are dealt with. In other words, we must ask ourselves, what was the original sin that led to this conflict? The situation pitting the Israelis and the Palestinians is one that does not lend itself to simplistic answers. It is complex. It is complex, and we have seen it being dealt with in different ways over the years. Those who are objective agree that the best way to address the problem is through the two-state solution. And the two-state solution was a proposal that came out of the negotiation that took place in Oslo, Norway. It was thought at that time that the two parties, namely the Israelis and the Palestinians, would then sit down and agree to ensure that you would have an independent Israeli state which exists since 1948 and have a separate Palestinian state which would exist side by side with the Israeli state. But it has not been easy, because within the Israeli government, there are those who hold the view that the Palestinian state should not exist. And within Palestine, there are those who hold the view that Israel should not exist. So how do you reconcile these two extreme positions? And if you look to the history, people like Yasser Arafat, who was the leader of the Fatah function of what was called the Palestinian Liberation Organization, of the PLO, over time accepted that you could not eliminate the state of Israel. But they are extremists whose clarion call is that we must eliminate Israel. And you see that not only within the states, like Iran, which says, kill the Americans, kill the Israelis, like Hamas, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, like the Houthis in Yemen. That is their clarion call. And in such a situation, Israel is always on the defensive. So going forward, one must then agree that in order to ensure that sustainable peace is achieved, the only thing that we must do as the rest of the world is to midwife a two-state solution. Easier said than done because of the extremists, but I believe that the solution lies in the middle. And the United Nations, in my view, has not played its role as it should have. The Arab League has not played its role as it should have. The Americans, to the extent that they cast their lot with the Israelis, have also in many ways stood in the path of this particular realization. And it is time now that the world must speak with one voice, demanding only one thing: two-state solution. Two-state solution. And that, in the nature of things, will calm down the temperatures and allow the two states to exist side by side in accordance with internationally accepted laws.